Welcome to the Ultimate Coach Podcast, Conversations from Being, inspired by the book, The Ultimate Coach, written by Amy Hardison and Alan Thompson. Join us each week with the intention of expanding your state of being, and your experience will be remarkable. Remember, this is a podcast about being. It is a podcast about you. To explore more deeply, visit theultimatecoachbook.com. Now, enjoy today's conversation from being.
Hello, beautiful people. We are back. This is Ross Weitzer on the Ultimate Podcast with Cordelia Gaffar. Cordelia, hello, my friend.
Hello, Ross. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to learn about you and be with you in this space.
It'll be amazing. It is amazing already.
To open it right up, I think a powerful question to jump into is, what have been some of the major shifts that you've experienced in yourself through and after reading The Ultimate Coach?
Okay. There have been a lot. So I'm just going to, I would say the first shift was a willingness to go deeper and be with things that I had put off to the side and allow myself an unearthing.
How would you describe that?
Like a volcano. Like, truly. I don't know if you know, but there was an event called the Ultimate Placation in Hawaii. And so I recently returned from that. And so it was an opportunity for the readers of the Ultimate Coach book. And we went and experienced the different elements. And there was a point when we walked on a trail of old lava rocks. And it was very rocky and unsettling. It was unstable, you know? And as I was walking on that path, I was thinking like how much of my life has been that way. And on that path, I had a willingness to stabilize myself, and even my energy within was stabilizing. And so when we finally got out to where we could see the shore, and the water had created arches in the old lava rocks, I just felt this overwhelming like gush. And I literally just released and just cried and like dumped it all out and just allowed that unearthing to happen. You know, all the instability, all the stories attached to the instability, all the stories attached to the insecurities and all that. I was just like, I release you now. Yeah.
And what do you credit that to? What was it about being there and being in that experience that invited that to come up?
My intention was to really be open to transformation. And, you know, for me, I've read the book twice so far. You know, I read it once before going to Arizona. I was halfway through when I went to the Ultimate Experience. And then I finished the second time before I went to Hawaii. And I know a lot of times people refer to it as pulling back the layers, but I think of ourselves as pomegranates. And when you open up a pomegranate, right, there's always like new parts, and it has more seeds that have, you know, delicious, nourishing juice in them. So I was just willing to embrace that transformation and look for the delicious juice inside of me. Yeah.
What's surprised you so far?
That I really don't have to be attached to any stories. Fear is a power source. It's not a reason to get stuck. And it's not even what I thought it was. You know, actually, it's funny, you know, Ross, I don't really feel fear anymore. However, the situations that I have attached to fear previously, I will say, this thing used to really scare me. Let me just experiment and see what's the worst thing that could happen. So that's surprising. And it keeps happening. Like the first time it happened, I was like, oh, that's a fluke. And then it happened again. And then it happened without me really realizing until after. I was like, wait a minute. I just did something that used to scare the bejesus out of me, and it's like, and I was totally fine with that. So.
Can you share an example?
One example, I guess the most simple example is just speaking up, being a stand, for myself and what I believe in. And there's a lot of things that have, transpired in the past year. So I got a divorce last May. And so like the legal system is not kind to women, and it's less kind even when you have kids. So there are just some things that have come up. And that's where I was saying, I don't know how specific I want to be. And I was approaching it from a place of, attached to the story that the legal system's not kind. They're not going to do this, this isn't going to happen. And so now, when I came back from Hawaii, everything's still there waiting for me. And I was just like, what's my intention? What's the outcome that I'm seeking here? And I just really embody that. I be with that. And then I start. And remarkably, like yesterday was one of those days when I had to really dig in and make stuff happen. And I made it happen, So I've had some challenges getting some things done for my children, because I have to get the buy-in of their father, who loves to be contentious. And so, I work around with other experts, and then I have them contact him, and then he agrees. And then, when I talk to him, I'm like, okay, so I'm not calling to argue. I want to go over these 3 points. And so he does try to upset me. And I just smile, like in my heart, genuinely. I'm like, okay, I see how this used to really affect me deeply. And in this moment, I'm choosing to not allow that to affect me. And it actually isn't hard, because I almost feel compassion for him, because not almost, I do feel genuine compassion, because I'm just like, he's attached to a story. He's attached to that dynamic that we used to have, And so I just allow myself to let go. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what's happening. This is what you need to do in this sequence of events. And I really appreciate, your agreement here. And then I just end the call, and he usually agrees, and there's no shouting. I hope that wasn't too vague. But...
You let us in. Do you find yourself dancing back and forth a bit, or ever since that release, the story has been rewritten?
Well, that's a good question. I don't really dance back and forth. There are moments when I experience wanting to boomerang back into that. Mm. And then I realize, because I have like this methodology within myself I call sweet talk, and there's like a sweet talk creation process. And when I feel that thing, I stop and I assess what's the sponsoring event here. And is it a self-care issue? Like, do I need to sleep? Do I need to eat? What's going on? Or is this a genuine trigger? And so when I pause with that, I either just, go and do cartwheels, or write a poem. Writing poetry is another form of release. And it's it's really helped me with my rage. And, but yesterday I just did cartwheels.
Beautiful how opposite of the spectrum both of those strategies are. How do you know when to choose cartwheels or when to choose poetry?
Well, when I'm in my, when it's more like I don't have words for what's happening, right? And dancing doesn't seem appropriate. Like I don't want to hear music, I just want to be in my body. That's when I know I have to do cartwheels, right? Too cold to roll down hills here, but I would do that to ground myself. And when I feel like just a whole bunch of words coming, then I know I have to write a poem. Like journaling doesn't do the trick for me. I have to like structure it and give it some formation and outcome,
How does it leave you feeling? Like what is the emotional process of the processing of the anger through poetry?
Oh, it's like orgasmic, it really is. Like I've been doing that since I was like 9 years old. Like I'm I've written 8 books, but poetry, there's like a poem or two in most of them, but my next book is going to be a book of poetry. So it's like a release, an answer. It's like a conversation between my soul and my being, my whole being.
So what is the difference in feeling between sitting down to journal in regards to where the words are coming from and sitting down to create poetry?
I mean, journaling is kind of like a word vomit, and poetry is, I think it's the purpose of journaling, right? It's when I create poetry, it gives me an opportunity to not just vent, but just to understand and to, build the bridges between all the selves that I am.
Yeah, I'd be so curious to try it because it sounds like such an interesting approach to here's my emotional state, really being in the emotional state. It sounds like such a masterful way to not suppress an emotion.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I mean, I don't know a better word than orgasmic because you really go through the range, and through all your chakras, to create that. Yeah. So
And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, my first time writing poetry, I might end up on the other side a bit more angry than when I started.
and that's great too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started writing poetry again in January and about various different things. And I met Dr. LaTanya at The Ultimate Experience. And so she has a magazine that's coming out this month. So one of my poems is going to be in there in her March issue. So I've already published one.
What's the essence of your poetry? Where is most of it coming from?
I guess expressing my experience as a woman. Like I said, mostly my rage is around that, just the things that I feel like sometimes invalidated, sometimes misunderstood, sometimes judged or dismissed. And, it could be in a single interaction, or it could be, going into a public place, or it could be, like I described a situation with my kid's school, or anything like that. And then sometimes, I don't know, I think most of my poetry lately has been kind of angry, but I think I have one that, like the one that's going to be published, is joyful. In the end, it always opens up to joy, right? Like in one of my poems, I talk about, I refuse to self-destruct, I'm here to reconstruct my being. And, so I'm experiencing what's coming at me, and I'm transmuting it and alchemizing it all at once. And, finding that reservoir of joy within, just revealing what's the true essence of my being.
It really sounds magical.
It is magical. You want me to read one?
Yes. Can you?
I don't know. Let me see if I can find one. I don't, you would think I'd memorize these, but it's like it comes out in the moment, and then it's sacred for that moment. So this one is called I'm Straight Queening. Even when I tell you the truth, it's like I'm locked in a telephone booth. First, I got to put my cape on. Then I got to wrap my heart, mind, and body in Teflon before you will even look in my direction or detect my presence. Even still, you cannot and will not stop my effervescence. My lover's heart and warrior soul vibrates higher and loves in another realm. I'm chilling with Allah, who is at the helm. If you think you can squash me or make me give up or die, don't be deceived when you see me cry. It's the overwhelm of loving compassion and passionately is who I'm being. I'm straight queening. Keep pretending not to see me. That's fine. Before you know it, I'll show you that your heart is a reflection of mine. Even still, your inactions, deceitful transactions, and ignorance is a blessing for me. My warrior's heart and lover's soul is all I will ever be. I reside in a different realm, the embodiment of feminine divinity. I'm chilling, joyfully, mongering, skillfully, joyously, being the evidence of joy. If you think you're going to dangling and dazzling me like a puppet or some sort of toy, recognize all I am being with all of my being is straight queening. Read this and fear not. Hear not that in my tone I am hateful. I am only always grateful. Gratitude is not an attitude. It is embedded in my DNA. Come on, come over here and let's play. I love a good bump, rump, and tumble. I love to mash up, lash up, and bubble. You know why? When you see me cry, my smile shines through my being? Because I'm straight queening. So that's one.
That was beyond. I'm witnessing you share that, and I'm like, oh, I know her so much better now.
Do you?
There was, okay. Well, maybe, but there were just so many different layers to the swagger that came through and how you delivered not only the words, but just in the spectrum of the shifts and changes of your facial features and feeling into who you were being in the different parts of that poem. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, Cordelia, before reading The Ultimate Coach, writing poetry, and Cordelia after The Ultimate Coach, writing poetry, what would be the biggest shifts that you would observe, that you would experience?
Before reading The Ultimate Coach, I would hide. I used poetry to mask, and I would make the words more agreeable and receivable, like what people expect to hear. Almost like condescending towards myself. And now this is the opposite.
I don't know what it is about you, but it was unexpected.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. From my quick perceptions of you. Because you come off confident, you come off grounded, you come off centered in the knowing of who you are. But the swagger piece to it, just so much character.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to see her on stage in like a concert delivering these.
Yeah, I know I have to memorize them. Yeah. So like that, I guess that's a good point, because before I would hide even that part of myself, and not really at the same time, because like, for example, on my book cover, right, I have red. I'm wearing red. And yeah, I got a little bit of hate for that. It's like, you're a hijabi, supposed to be modest. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. And just me wearing red, that is swagger in itself, but undetected because I'm in a hijab, right? So it's like, oh, well, she's covered up, And am I? I am showing you who I am, And that's what I'm talking about. People, they, even in you saying that, it's like that swagger was unexpected. Yeah, it's there, but I don't really feel the need to always walk around with it, because there are times when it's appropriate, right? And there are other times when it's just, when people need to see it, they'll see it,
What does covering up mean for you?
I mean, for me, it's just an extension of the way I choose to be a spiritual being. I wasn't born Muslim, so I chose to be Muslim when I was like 30. Like, I took my Shahada, that's what it's called, testimony of faith, on my birthday. And so I immediately started covering. I like got my 3, they're called bayas, the long dress looking thing. And then I got like a whole bunch of hijabs. And I was like, man, this is so great. Like, I can never have a bad hair day. And if I do, nobody knows. It's like, all I have to do is like put on like, and I remember, like, I left work, like, I dressed nice, I was a 3-piece suit person, but to not have to figure that out and go to the dry cleaners and all that, what a load off, So, and it's the way I dress has changed over the years. So I don't really wear abayas unless it's like a holiday. So I tend to be a little bit more relaxed, but I love it. It makes me feel joy. It makes me feel connected to the oneness. And I know you've probably never heard this translation of Allah, but Allah is literally like the oneness, as if there's no other one that could create and do all the things, right? So, and I know, like, in other spirituality, people also resonate with this, concept of the oneness. So for me, I just get to be one of the sun rays off of the oneness. That's what it feels like.
Bringing that spirituality into your current experience with your husband and your current experience of dropping these stories, how did you bring your spirituality, those perspectives, those ways of seeing and being, into life for yourself?
So here's the thing. It's like the stories were a human creation, right? And when you drop it, you can be connected to your spirituality. It's the stories that keep us from that. And like, I know a lot of people that are going to be listening or watching this read Khalil Gibran, right? Or Rumi. And these are Sufis from the Islamic tradition. And so in Sufism, or tasawwuf is what it's called, the connection between your spiritual self and your human self is your emotions. And when we disallow ourselves to feel the emotions, or if we get too attached, right, we attach story to the emotion, then we pretty much keep ourselves just hanging out on the bridge and we never get over there. So like the whole time I've been Muslim, I've been studying tasawwuf, which is like the purification of your soul. And I'd have to say probably in the last 5 years, I realized that, okay, it's this emotional piece. So originally I was you probably see this in articles as recent as last year, I used to call myself the emotions opener, right? But now I've switched it to joy, right? Joy Monger. And that was something, these are a set of words that I created before I walked with Steve. But when I shared it with him, he was like, you should be telling everybody this, And so, and when you look it up, Dr. Hawkins talks about the different frequencies. So everyone is always, love this, love that. Well, did you know that actually joy is a higher vibration than love and peace? After joy is enlightenment. Wait a minute. Maybe there's peace between joy and enlightenment. But anyway, it's higher than love, you see? So we get trapped in the, love frequency, and we could go so much higher. There's joy, because that's actually how humans are created. We have, like, some traditions call this the third eye, but either way, in Islam, this is our bliss center, right? So we can activate that because that's the way we're created.
Just hearing you share that, I felt a shift of lightness. And the reason is, being new to podcast hosting, I feel the dance of being and falling out of being. So being for me is, I'm here with you in the presence of every word that you're sharing. And when I need to speak, intuition will guide me along the way. And when I fall out of being, it's when, oh shit, I got to have a question, or, oh shit, when it's my turn to speak, I better have something to say. Right.
It's not that deep, Ross.
I fall into that deepness sometimes. That's my human story.
Yeah.
And when you were sharing, it was a moment of, I'm stuck in my human story. It doesn't matter. We're right here. We're going to be here after a couple sentences are said. And that's it. Yeah.
Podcasting is like that. I know, like, I have 2 podcasts, you know that, right? And I'm like, my first one, I started in 2015. And so in the beginning, I just wanted to have conversations like you, because I really wanted to understand. My first show was called Replenish Me, and I just wanted to hear how people go about doing that, or if they care about doing that, And eventually in 2020, I renamed it Free to Be, because if you think vibrationally, when I started my podcast, I really needed to replenish myself, right? So I wanted to understand that and have those conversations to practice it. And then by the time I was replenished, I decided I want to be free to be. And so now the conversations I have on that show are questioning what does free to be mean in our minds, and this attachment to story,
Yeah. And just being afraid to trust to just show up.
Yeah. And even like that the trust to show up is the trust that you have with yourself.
That's been some of the biggest shifts for me since reading The Ultimate Coach, is realizing how many judgments I actually wasn't aware of. I was aware of the second layer of judgments, but not being aware that there was actually a judgment underneath, this subtle layer of doubt, of criticism that I just wasn't seeing.
Yeah. Telling you, pomegranate, just keep pulling it back. And yeah, it's true. And even for me, I'm shocked. You were asking me something along those lines earlier. And so like, when I went to Hawaii, I realized, like, I thought I had gotten rid of that. Like, there's something more inside of there. Oh my goodness, really? And just not being afraid, having that willingness to keep going deeper, and allow myself the trust that I can hold space for myself. And if I can't, trust that, I'm in community, and I will be held,
What's that next layer of depth for you?
I'm going to take other people on the same transformation I went with the elements, I love these experiences in nature, and exploring the possibilities of self. And so I'm going to travel around the world and take people with me, and do the same thing.
Wow. Can you describe a little detail of what that would be like?
Yeah. So like in June, I'm going to actually go back to Hawaii with some people. And so there's a place where you can really experience the air element, and just allow yourself to be free with that, and whatever, comes through, allow that to come through. No real structure. It all depends on who I'm with, right? And how they're being, as to how that experience will play out. But just allowing ourselves to experience the air, the water, the earth, the fire, and just doing different forms of grounding, experiencing what it's like to be very intentional with what you put in your body energetically, and choose your frequency, to prepare for those transformations, because there's so much integration, and you have to have a certain, you have to go into it with a certain level of vibration. So you can't eat like McDonald's, I mean? It's like, you have to know what herbs and what fruits, and how to put them together. Like papaya is a great source of vitamin C, but is it necessary? Would it be better to have like jackfruit or something like that? So, and just allowing a lot of flow and movement. So, yeah. So I have a friend who's a vegan chef. I'm going to carry him around with me everywhere, because that's what he does. He like wrote a book about this stuff with frequency. And then I'm going to St. Martin later in the year. I think it's August for that one. And so, yeah, just having these natural experiences and just allowing yourself to detach from story.
I can't imagine a time where that work and that experience is more needed and more called for.
Yeah. Yeah, we've disconnected ourselves from the earth. We've disconnected ourselves from source. And, everything we need, everything we require, I'm going to use that word, is here. It's on the earth. We don't need, we are in the scarcity mindset of needing structure, but that structure is false. All we require is air, water, earth, and a little bit of fire, Yeah.
Do you think it's fair to say that people are acquiring that right now? There is a need.
I believe that the Ultimate Coach book, the book about being, has become an opening for many people, even those who haven't joined this group or my LinkedIn group, and to experience it in community. There's someone out there reading that book right now, and they're changing the way they're being, and they're realizing that they have requirements and they no longer need.
They have requirements and they no longer need. That's really powerful to pull those apart that way. If somebody's listening right now and they're like, it's really powerful, that totally went over my head.
The distinction is, like, we commonly say that we need to set healthy boundaries. And the setting of the boundary begins within, by understanding your requirements, which are also known as non-negotiables. Okay? As opposed to, I need my quiet time, I need my space. You don't need that, right? You have access to that already. It's a requirement. You wake up in the morning, notice yourself. You tell yourself, I need to jump out of bed because I need to get to work at this time. you require to allow your body to wake up and breathe into your day and notice your environment. Like most of the time we wake up, we're discombobulated, isn't it? You know, you require a moment of stillness to be in your body, because that's what happens when we sleep. Our soul goes someplace else, and then it comes back in when you open your eyes in the morning. That's the wobbliness you feel in the morning. So just give it a minute to settle, you know, breathe a little bit, open your eyes, blink them, make sure they, you know, it's like, let's see, did my blinker still work? You know, kind of like when you get in your car, do you just like start driving? No, you let it warm up a little bit, you know, sit, make sure your mirror's right, your seat's comfortable. Same thing. When you get in your body, when you wake up in the morning, you require stillness for a second, at least. So I require 15 minutes.
I'm with you. Yeah, the distinction that I'm hearing in that is need is derived from a reactive consciousness and a feeling of lack, inadequacy, and insecurity. And a requirement is coming from this intuitive knowing. And with that intuitive knowing, that is the space for self-love.
Yes.
Well, I require a lot.
That's a great recognition, you know, and now you have to make certain agreements with yourself.
And not get confused and say, well, I require a Lamborghini.
See, that's like unnecessary.
That's the lesson I left with today. Okay, Cordelia taught me a wonderful lesson. I require a Lamborghini.
I require a Porsche.
Can you imagine that's the movement we start?
Why not?
It's coming from love, though, so it's all going to work out.
I require to drive fast, so whatever can support me.
Truth bombs.
Yeah. What color is your Lamborghini?
Red.
Really? Stole my color.
Cordelia, my friend, before we finish off our time together today, is there any final things that you would like to share?
Yeah. Hold space for yourself and allow your joy to reveal itself.
Powerful. Cordelia, thank you so much for being here with me. It was so lovely to explore anger and explore joy and declare a Lamborghini.
Yes.
All right, Cordelia, lots of love.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you know someone who would benefit from today's conversation, please share this podcast with them. Also, we invite you to visit theultimatecoachbook.com so you can continue your personal exploration of being. There you will find links to join our wonderful community, get your own copy of the Ultimate Coach book, and more. Simply go now to www.theultimatecoachbook.com. That's www.theultimatecoachbook.com. The link is also available in the show notes. We appreciate your support. Be blessed. Be you.